Game on, all you sports people. Welcome to episode 9, the real live DMV DC Sports cast here. I'm the host, Nathan Perry. We've got my buddy, my co-host, the Stoner, in here as well.
What's up, Nathan? How are you doing this morning?
I am doing well. Getting some things. I'm
sleep
learning
in?
things. I did get to sleep in till like 7:20 this morning. It was great. The dog didn't start moving until then. My bladder didn't tell me. My old man bladder didn't be like, "Hey, you have to get up and go pee now." Until 7:20. That was good. I think you got a little bit. You were a little bit later than I was.
Yeah, I slept until almost 8:30, which is pretty unheard of for me because yesterday, beautiful day here in this area, in the DC area. So I spent it all outside, removing some dead rose bushes and and just trimming and all that. And my body was beat up. So I self-medicated a little bit, legally, of course, and that knocked me out. And I slept until like 8:30. And then, of course, that got me. But it's all good. Glad to be here.
Some good old vitamin M there from your glory days in the Air Force.
Oh yeah,
got that ibuprofen, knocked you out, got a little sleep in you. I mean, you didn't have to stay up for the games because your bracket has just been completely washed out.
Not my bracket, Nathan. This is the Washington Post bracket. I put all the blame on them. They did not.
I love how you can just deflect the whole blame here.
What do you want me to tell you?
I want you to tell me next year. I want you to make this promise, and we'll revisit this next March Madness. I want you to promise me you're going to make your own bracket next year.
So here's the brilliance of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my own bracket, and I'm going to do the perfect bracket from the Washington Post, and then whichever one's the better one, that's what I'm going to declare as my bracket. But I guarantee the Washington Post is going to have a better bracket than me because I can't pick games for anything.
Well, it's not the perfect bracket at all
No.
when you had Illinois and Iowa who are both out.
And
no big.
By the way,
why is the
Ohio
Big
State,
12 team or Big 10 team rather that's doing well is Michigan?
I don't know.
Why?
That hurts my heart that they're doing so well because I can't stand the University of Michigan, and I don't know why. It's crazy that the Pac-12 or Pac whatever they are is doing so well and the Big Ten is not. That's not what everybody told us all this year of who is the basketball power conference. Everybody said the Big Ten and they did almost nothing. And hopefully Michigan State loses and Florida State loses. I realize that's not.
We're gonna have to play that audio back here. I'm pretty sure you just said Michigan State loses.
Oh, I did. Oh, I'm sorry.
You definitely did.
Michigan State on my mind, but I hope Michigan loses. I hope Florida State loses. I know that's not possible, but somehow I hope they cancel the game. Both teams take an L. I can't stand either one of them. So hopefully that happens, but obviously it's not going to happen. I won't watch the game.
Did you send them the same barber who like all the Kansas City guys went to, then the Philadelphia guys went to, and getting, why was it barbers? Why is it that's the one who's taking out, professional players as a barber? That's who you need to send both teams to, apparently. They got to get a fresh look here for their Sweet 16 game. Michigan, Florida State, that's playing at 5. You don't want either of them to win. I picked Florida State. Like I have Florida State going into the Elite Eight, so I'm hoping that's a victory for me. We got 3 other games happening today. Gonzaga and Creighton. That's happening at 2:10.
Yeah, I think Gonzaga is a juggernaut. I think they got at least 2 pros on that team. I think they're going to go all the way to the end. Now that I only have 12 teams to choose from. That's the team I'm going to back. And I know you've backed them the whole way.
That's who I got winning the whole tournament. I've got both of them into this point. I take Gonzaga, obviously, because I got them winning the whole tournament. We have USC and Oregon. I don't have a dog in this fight. That's 9:45 tonight. Who do you got winning this? USC is 6 seed. Oregon's a 7 seed.
I'm a typical East Coast bias kind of guy. I have not seen either of these teams play because they either play late at night or I simply don't care about their teams. So I have no idea. I'll just have to pick USC.
I'm going to take Oregon, not just to be a contrarian, just because I think Oregon actually might pull off the minor upset again, a 6 versus 7 seed. We have potential for a big upset today, an 11 versus a 2 seed. UCLA versus Alabama. That's happening at 7:15.
That's the game I'm looking forward to watching because I watched UCLA knock out my Spartans in the play-in game, and they've just been rolling ever since. But Alabama, wow, are they playing extremely good basketball? So I think you just got to go with the higher seeds. I'll go with Alabama.
I have Alabama winning as well. We'll see how that game goes. Alabama was shooting lights out against Maryland just the game before. UCLA, pretty big surprise. Coming in, like you said, from that playing game. Maybe they're going to run out of gas. If that happens against Alabama, I'm okay with that.
I got a question for you, Nathan. So
yes.
In the past, when you get to the Sweet 16, they would normally play Thursday, Friday, and then the Elite Eight would play Saturday, Sunday. But this year they've moved it to where they're playing the Sweet 16 Saturday and Sunday. Are they playing Monday and Tuesday night? I should probably know that, but are they playing? Or are they waiting the whole week?
The next games are going to be 3:30, so it'll be Tuesday when we can expect the Elite Eight to happen.
Oh wow! So what? Tuesday, Wednesday, or all day Tuesday?
Sorry, it's Monday, Tuesday, 3:29 for some of those. So it'll be Monday, Tuesday, and then we have to wait all the way to the weekend again for those next games
for the Final Four. Okay, that's pretty cool, right? On a Monday and Tuesday to be able to watch the Elite Eight games.
It's 2 games. It's like double decking Monday Night Football.
Are they really playing at like 3:30? Why are they playing so early if there's only 2 games a night?
That's today. I don't know the times. I just have the dates on there. So my guess is you're going to make these primetime games.
Sure.
The only thing happening is spring training, but not for long. There's about to be some serious competition, and we're going to get into that because, as you can see, we're wearing some Nationals gear here. It is opening day for the Major League Baseball, and we brought in our very own guest. He's our resident Nationals expert, our very own outsider. It's Matto.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks, guys. Happy to be here, and thanks for bringing me back. It's enjoyable watching the show, and even more so appearing on it. So appreciate it.
Hey, pleasure to have you. Thank you for filling in for me back when I was in the hospital. Glad to have you back on and bringing your experience, especially because, I'm really high-key jealous at this. You're going to be there in person for opening game.
I am a very good friend of mine who was a season ticket holder, partner of mine for the first. We had tickets together for the first, 6-7 years when the team came back. He was able to score opening day tickets. So here we are. We're 2 of the 5,000 people they're allowing in the stadium. Opening day is about as close as a thing as I have as a religious experience as I have. It's like going to church, going to synagogue, going to whatever religious service people do. I can't be more excited. And I realized the other day the last baseball game I attended in person was the World Series.
Right.
So last season, let's be honest, it didn't happen.
It didn't count.
60 games.
Not a real season. We're still reigning world champions, right? That's we get to.
I wholeheartedly agree. And if we have to qualify it, we're certainly the reigning full big boy season reigning champions. Because 60 games, you can slump for 60 games. You can bat, $150 for 60 games and still put in a serious season if you did the full 162.
So here's a question I have about opening day this year, at least. Are they doing the whole raise the banner thing on opening day, or when do they plan on doing that? Have you heard?
I haven't even looked, and the reason I haven't looked is because I want my expectations to just be wide open. I don't want to go in thinking that if they're not raising the banner, I don't want to know, because if they do raise the banner,
that'll be awesome. Yeah, right.
And
maybe they're just going to wait until later on in the season when hopefully they'll have more than 5,000 fans there.
Or do it like the old Super Mario game. Raise the banner every game. Like every time you just do it every day this season.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
In case somebody missed it.
That's right. That would be crazy. Every game have a whole ceremony and everything.
So like you got Bernie the Brewer sliding down in Miller Park. Just the Nats thing is just a reminder.
Raise the banner.
World Series champs.
All right. And then opening day is a great pitching matchup, right? Of course, you got Scherzer and DeGrom.
Right. Yep, Scherzer and the Dutchman. Right. We saw them the other day, right? Was 3-4 days ago. There was the matchup. It was a sneak peek at what we're going to see. There's some questions about this team. We saw the assignment to AAA of the two young guns, or the two young infielders, Keyboom and Garcia. I think the jury's still out on whether or not they're going to end up being, hot bats, especially Keyboom. But come opening day, we really don't know what the second base and third base situation is going to look like. If you go to the Nats depth chart right now on their website, and I know it's not a high priority, or I'm sure it's not a high priority for the team to update this thing to the minute, but Harrison is listed as the second baseman and the third baseman right now, and we know
he's the number one guy in both.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. And I think Garcia. No. I'm sorry. I checked it the other day or yesterday. I think Garcia was number one. Well, whatever. You get the point. Yeah. It was Harrison and Keyboom and Harrison and Garcia, and those two guys are gone.
Yeah, a few days before opening day, and really they're not completely sold on exactly what they have for their lineup.
This is an interesting prospect because it's been in Rizzo we trust this whole time. Mm-hmm. And the guy's been a genius. I mean, he got us, and he was integral, obviously, if not the key piece to getting us a World Series championship. But here we are left without an infield. Are we going to platoon? We platooned at second base before, but I can't imagine platooning both at second and third,
and maybe even first when you got Bell and Zimmerman.
Yeah, I mean Bell's going to be your primary first baseman. So the lineup's going to be interesting. I mean, we know what the shortstop is going to be, obviously, and we know what the outfield's looking like. I think we got a pretty good idea of 1 through 5 starting pitchers. It's not clear to me, and maybe it's for lack of looking up. But who's the closer going to be? Do you guys? I mean, is that out?
I think that's still almost a committee. I think they want Brad Hand to be the closer, but he hasn't looked particularly sharp in spring training. So you've got Hand, and you've got Rainey, and you've got Harris, Hudson. And you've got Hudson. You've got all those guys with experience. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a committee, and they're just going to play it by hand. See what I did there.
So here's the tough part though. Hand's our lefty,
right?
Our one and only lefty, right? And that hasn't been a problem in the past because Doolittle was, right?
Right. Correct.
But I know they announced that Harris he does not have a blood clot, right? There was a worry about that, and he doesn't. Right. But
I think he's going to pitch today, possibly just to see where he is with his arm, because that's not good when you got to go all the way across the country to find a specialist to see what's going on. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. And there are other injuries too that I think there are questions about. Did you guys see that? This is crazy to me. Strasburg saying that he snapped a tendon in his leg.
Right.
Yeah. The whole situation with that just seems strange because we saw the video of where he pulled something. We heard possibly it was like a hamstring. Then he's pitching off the mound, and now there's this where is the status of his health right now? And it has been an issue almost his entire career whether or not the Nationals can have him. I mean, you'd love to see him for the playoffs because he's been one of the all-time greats come that time, but they really need him to be one of the starting pitchers to get that far. How many games do you think he's healthy for this year?
I think the ceiling is 3/4 of the starts, right? So that would be, what do these guys get? 40 starts give or take.
Not that much, and 35 to
We got him for 27, 28 games.
That's ceiling. You said that's the ceiling. Realistically, though, are we probably looking at maybe he gets 15 to 20?
Yeah, I mean, look, if we've seen it before, I don't think it would be disastrous. If that, like with Strasburg, like you mentioned, Nathan, we've seen him have injury problems throughout, and he has bounced back, but they've been long stints being out. I mean, Tommy John, right, will do that to you. But 15 to 20, we'll see. I like the rotation. I do like the rotation. And if I'm not mistaken, Fetty's still available, even if he's not the number 5. And we know he can eat innings. I think the jury's out on how many innings Lester can eat, how much he's still got in the tank.
Right.
Yeah.
And Joe Ross is coming off. He opted out last year, so he hasn't pitched in a game in a year and a half or whatever that is. So obviously, there's a lot of question marks about this team. The one thing that concerns me is that of your starting 8 hitters, there are 5 new guys from just 2 seasons ago when they won the World Series. So you really don't have that consistency of the same lineup that's coming off that World Series win a season and a half ago. But this team always has been, will be built around the starting pitching. So if you do have any trouble with Strauss or Max, who's like 36 years old now, or Lester, who's about the same age.
Don't you put that on us. Scherzer's going to be fine.
Yeah. So this team has a lot of question marks, but if everything goes right, they're obviously still one of the best teams in baseball.
How important is consistency in the lineup, though? Right? Because one of my beefs about Martinez was, well, I mean, from the jump, and thankfully I was wrong so far. I've been wrong. Is they gave the keys of the Ferrari to an untested manager who was putting out a different lineup every single day, right? So consistency. I mean, already we've seen in the spring training, you've got some shaking up. He's breaking down left-hand pitching and right-hand pitching lineups. Like Trey's been starting for righties, and Robles has been starting for lefties, and then the bump Robles down to 9. So I think we're okay in that World Series roster. They had a lot of shaking up from the season prior. Like there just has. I mean. Right, we had Murphy playing second, and then he's gone, and then we're doing second by committee between Cabrera and Defoe. We had Turner out for a long stretch, so Keyboom with his stint coming up. There was a lot of flux in the year they won the championship. I think one of the things that should take a long hard look, and there's nothing you can do about it, is also going back to injuries. How injured is Castro? Right, because now we need him at either second or third. So we'll see. Another big question is, we know how good the Braves are, right? They were very close to making, they almost made the World Series last year, and they probably could have won it if they did. And then there's this other team that everybody loves to prop up before the season, and we know is going to turn into a train wreck. Will they continue that trend? And that's the Mets. Like, how good did the Mets get, and can they be successful? It's going to be a murderous division this year, I think.
And what I've seen, the projections that I've seen by all people smarter than myself, is that their win total is somewhere around 84, 85.
The Nats?
Do you think that's a good number? Yeah, for the Nats, not the Mets. We don't care about them, right? But I get your point about how it's important to see what the other teams in the divisions are shaping up to be. But where do you go if I gave you 84 wins? Do you go over that or do you go under that?
I think the question really is: will 84 wins? Will it make the play-in game?
Will it be enough?
Right. Will they do more than 84? It's 162 games, and how do you call that? Injuries, and streaks. We'll see. And by the way, COVID's not over yet, right?
Sure.
I haven't even looked at what the MLB's COVID protocol is. I mean, obviously the teams are going to be traveling like they were before COVID. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's restrictions on who they can have in their hotels. Can families go? I haven't looked into that. So 84 sounds low, but I think it sounds low compared to past teams. It's probably a realistic number. And by the way, the people that you're claiming are smarter than you, they're only smarter than you because they say they're smarter than you. I mean, we'll see at the end of the year.
They're guessing just as much. Now, you mentioned 162 games. Whether or not the Nats get to 84 or not, it's all going to start with this opening day game. And we have a live listener asking, Matt, do you think the Nats will win the first game?
Yeah, of course. Of course, I think they're going to win the first game. They're playing the mess, and
The mess.
Degrom
Did you
is.
do that on purpose? The
I did.
mess.
Yeah, this
Okay.
was a little silly cheap shot. We've been building this team around the starting rotation. I think on paper the Mets look a little better, and we'll see. I mean, Degrom obviously is filthy, and he seems to only be getting better. But you're playing against a guy who is who will never quit, right? A guy who breaks his nose in batting practice and pitches the next day. So I mean, he's tough as nails. We'll see. I think yeah. I mean, they're playing at home for the first time. How could they not get jacked up for that?
Yeah, right.
Hoping for a solid victory out of there. We've brought up a little bit about Keyboom and Garcia. These were two young prospects that the Nationals had that they're hoping to rely on that they sent back down to the AAA. What are the chances that they do pull one of them back before the season's end?
I think. Well, I think it depends what the real reason they were sent down for. Is it to buy back a year of their contract, before they start arbitration or free agency, or however that shakes out, or are they really concerned? And I think the answers are different for each. I think there probably is some concern, maybe not to the level of panic, about Keyboom. I mean, we've seen some really good things out of him, but what he's batting, I think, like 180 in spring training. I mean, it's a small sample size. That equates, I think, to 6 hits. It's certainly fewer than 10 that he's had, and this is in spring training, so he's not seeing everybody's A game. We'll see, and he's getting older. Garcia is 20, if I'm not mistaken, 20 or 21.
Yeah, he was the youngest player last season in the MLB, so he still has time to reach that promise.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I've talked with Stoner in the past about this, and he can vouch for it or call me a liar. But I've always thought that Keyboom hasn't shown enough, I think, to impress a major league GM. I would say he hasn't shown enough, absolutely, but he doesn't have to show me anything. I think the proof's in the pudding, though, being designated for the AAA out of spring training. But the interesting thing is the reason given, and it's a stock reason, is to get more reps, right? But this year,
at bats.
But this year, AAA doesn't start until May. So,
wow.
So if the idea is to get the guy his at bats, the best place for that, you would think, would be in the majors for this month before AAA starts, and then designating him. But I don't know if there's money, contract issues for doing. I mean, that's the thing about baseball these days is the contract, and how you play with that is probably just as important as how you make the team work.
Although Rizzo has said in the past that he doesn't play that game. He doesn't care if you're ready to play. He doesn't care about the service time and arbitration and all. Now he said that, whether or not that's true or not. Right. You saw the guy. I don't even know what team it was who talked about it, and that cost him his job. Where he said he absolutely takes service time into consideration.
Yeah, it's one of those unspoken things. You can't actually get caught on a live mic, just like that NHL ref say, I'm going to make that call. Later gets fired. You can't say that you're doing that, but you're going to play the game. And contracts are something that's pretty important. It's going to be important for Rizzo and the Nationals. You saw a big deal happen earlier this year in San Diego. Should we expect a big deal to happen with one of the promising young guys that the Nationals have in Turner and Soto?
You're asking, could we expect, or would it be a surprise if they deal one of those two guys?
I would not deal, but give them a deal.
Oh, well, I mean, look, after Harper, which I think I'd like to think was largely out of ownership's hands. After Harper and after Rendon, where I'm less sure it was. Well, that's not that actually. Thinking about it, Rendon wanted out, right? Rendon, I think, made it pretty clear he wasn't a fan of the town, for whatever reasons. But after seeing Harper and Rendon go, and where it left the team, specifically with Rendon, they have to offer everything to either Turner or Soto, probably more so Soto. I think he's more irreplaceable. The only problem is Soto happens to have the agent, right? Who is going
he's a Boris guy?
Yeah, he's going to take the team to the cleaners. Like that's it. That's his job. That's
Right.
and that's why Soto hired him, right? We're talking about the man's livelihood. So you can't fault him, I don't think, for getting a superstar agent like that. It's just going to cost the Nats money.
Well, they still have a couple of years before he's eligible for the big contract. So maybe this is the right time to sign him
Like they
if
did
he's
in
willing.
Atlanta, right?
Right. They did a bunch of guys in Atlanta, right? A bunch of the young guys.
However, I don't think they were represented by. Has Boris let a guy take a deal early like that?
Yeah, maybe not.
I don't think that's happened yet. So
Yeah, that's true. That's scary because I said it earlier this week that I think they should sign Soto right now to like a 5-year, $200 million deal right now. And
I
I'd be
bet,
okay with that. But I don't think, like you said, I don't think Soto would even do that.
I bet you if they could, they would. If it,
Which one?
if the Nats
The
could
Nats.
pull that off,
Yeah.
it would be in the news already.
Yeah.
So we'll see. One of the problems though is like as the game evolves, and Nathan, as you said, the contracts are so important. I do feel it kind of takes away from the fandom a little bit. Like I'm still like my fandom was built when I was a kid, and all it was about who has the most wins, strikeouts, homer. So I try to kind of stay away from the nitty gritty. And like there are people, and I'm sure you guys know them, who will be able to rattle off the rules of what losing a Type A free agent means. What the compensations are. Did the 60 game season count as a year of service? I try to not get too involved. A, because it changes so fast. I can't keep up. But B, how's Soto going to hit this year? That's why we're there. That's why
That's
we're going.
what you're most concerned about.
Yeah.
The guys who are on the team now and how they're going to perform and what the team's going to do.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most.
Soto going to be the best performer by the end of the season?
Well, he's the reigning NL batting champ. Do you see? I mean, like, there's no limit to how well this guy can hit. It seems.
He's just outstanding, exciting player to watch, young guy. I don't know if you guys remember this, but during the World Series, he was 21.
He turned 21, right?
Yeah, he turned 21, yeah.
He was just killing them.
Yeah, no, a very, very exciting player to watch. Hopefully the Nationals can keep him. I like Turner, too. I like Trey. Is there any world that you see that the Nationals can keep both?
Look, who owns who owns the Nationals? Aren't the Lerners one of the richest owners in baseball? It's what DC. I think if you combine it with Baltimore, but DC is like in the top 5 markets in the country as far as population size, and maybe that includes Baltimore, which you really can't do when it comes for baseball. They can afford. It's not my money, so it's easy for me to say. They can afford Trey Turner and Juan Soto, sure. Why not? If they don't, I think there will be some questions, right? Just and it'll be the same questions, just amplified about what happened with Harper, what happened with Rendon,
right? And they said, right, the rumors, the noise out there was that when they let Harper get away, well, it's because we're saving up for Rendon. And then now Rendon gets away, and well, that's because we're saving up for Turner and Soto. Yeah. So you better do it. At some point, you've got to sign.
You can't keep kicking that can.
The bill comes due, right?
Absolutely.
The thing about when you say that they let Harper get away,
they did.
Let's going back a couple of years. Did they? I'm fairly certain the amount of money the Phillies gave Harper, what he signed for, was the exact same amount of money the Nats offered Harper. The only difference is
the years. It was
the
Nats years, yeah.
Put it right as an annuity, so they were paying him over, whatever. So I mean that apparently was the sticking point. I don't know if you can say that the team let him get. I mean the absolute number was in a fair, obviously, because that's what he signed for with the Phillies, a fair number. It was just how they were going to pay it.
So you just answered your own question. Yes, they let him get away because they didn't have to do it that way.
They didn't cave into every demand he had, so they let him go. I disagree with that. I think that they gave him a very solid offer, and he chose a different offer, and I don't think that's letting him go. I think that's just him choosing. I think it's really no different than Rendon, who, as Matt mentioned, clearly wanted out of this town. For whatever reason, he was excited to be here, excited to win that World Series, and then he was excited to take somebody else's money.
Right.
So much so that I don't even know that I would believe it if somebody told me that like the Nationals offered him something and he didn't even open the letter.
Right.
Like he just did not want to be here for whatever reason.
Well, I think he talked around the reason, and we can infer what those reasons were. And I think, they weren't organization related, and they weren't actually specific to Washington, D.C. He wanted to go to an area of the country where he felt more comfortable raising his family. Right? Isn't that what the implications were?
Yeah. And that might actually be that less that he didn't want to be here and just more that he wanted to be elsewhere.
Bingo. Yeah, I think
so.
He's from Texas. They were talking about Texas for a while. He ends up in Orange County, which seemed like the kind of place that he was used to growing up in. So yeah, I don't know if there was much we could have done about Rendon at the end of the day. It just sucks, as fans, you're thinking like this is going to last a while, and the window is closing. Like we've heard it for years.
It is closing big time.
This is one of the oldest teams in the league, and I think the moves they made in the offseason didn't help them get any younger, and it certainly doesn't help when they send down Kieboom and Garcia. I know like average age is not a stat point that really determines success one way or the other, but it ain't getting any younger.
No, you definitely want to see an influx of that young talent so that way you can have success, or what you would hope would be success. So we'll see. Obviously, a good couple young guys that we like in Turner and Soto. The pitching staff is getting much, much older, and only older by the day. And Stoner, you mentioned that's where the bread and butter is. You need that good pitching staff. Hopefully they'll be able to turn into a few wins. Hopefully a win opening day against the mess, as Matt called them, and that's accurate. Definitely don't like them. DeGrom is an excellent pitcher, though. We'll see how the bats go up against one of the most dominant pitchers here in the last few seasons. But it's Scherz Day, folks.
It is Scherz Day. It's sorry. It's Scherz Day. But hey, and also
ease up, Stoner. You've already injured yourself and had to take that ibuprofen. You can't. We don't need you medicating on camera.
But another just a quick side about that is that let's not forget Scherzer's contract is up at the end of this year.
Yeah,
this could be his last year in a Nationals uniform.
So that would make me very sad.
Here's the question. This is a good question. This is a good problem to have. Is Scherzer your favorite Nat?
If you're asking me,
I'm asking you.
I would say it's tough to say.
It is.
It is tough to say because I love Scherzer. But my MO over the years with my teams is I like to pick a young guy who nobody really knows about. It's easy to root for the best players on your team. That's easy. I try to pick a young guy that nobody really knows about. So I would like to declare that I discovered Soto before anybody else. So
you went down to the Dominican Republic.
Yes, and I told our Nat scout, this is the guy you need to sign. But when I remember his first game when he came up, which would have been 2018, and he came up for his first start, and the rule was not the rule, but the decision at that time was Davey was going to play him this game and then give him the next game off because it was against a lefty. Well, he comes in that first game and he hits a bomb. And so that threw everything else out the window. He's got to come in the next day again. I don't think he hit a bomb, but he might have had 2 hits that day, and he's never sat since. And from that moment, I loved Soto. And so it's hard for me to say which is my favorite because I love Soto and I love Scherzer.
Nathan, what do you do with this guy?
1A and a 1B?
He's discovering Nationals players who are wearing Nationals uniforms.
I'm so lucky to have him as a co-host. Just an immense talent. I would like to say that I discovered the Stoner as a broadcast talent.
Sure.
In the same vein that he discovered Soto, I mean, it's got to be possible. Doesn't matter that he's been in the game longer than I have, and I've discovered him. So
right, and both equally important scouting reports.
That's correct. I'm glad I'm in that category of being discoverable.
Uh-huh.
All right,
And
I like that.
Nathan, who do you have a favorite Nat?
I mean, I'm torn between the two young guys, between Turner and Soto. I like the young talent. I mean, I've actually been a big Strasburg guy his entire time with the Nationals. So I always cheer. If we're talking a pitcher, Strasburg is my guy, even over Scherzer. I love Scherzer, but I really, really like Strasburg. I'm happy that he stayed with the team this long. I've been very impressed with what he's done in the playoffs. So he's actually Strasburg. I'll go with Strasburg as my favorite, but I do like Soto and Turner, and I really hope that the learners figure out a way to make both of those happen. But if we can only have one, at least make one of them happen.
And Matty-O, who's your guy?
I'm a sentimental guy, and I don't think you can't for this question, right?
Yeah,
but you didn't pick the correct answer.
Which is Zimmerman, right?
Of
Zimmerman,
course.
right?
Yeah,
you gotta
number
go
11.
Zimmerman.
I mean, the guy's been there from the jump, and as long as he's still wearing the uniform, and I think a lot of people would like to see, if it makes sense, him to continue working for the organization beyond. And I think he's the kind of guy that would make sense. Zimmerman.
Is he a Hall of Famer?
No, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, how could he be? I mean, does he even have 400 career home runs?
Probably not.
Does he have 300? You know, how many hits does he have?
The numbers aren't there for him.
Not at all. And I hate to say it, but there was a hometown friend of his growing up who was probably a better third baseman for much of his career.
I don't know who that is.
At least for the early part, right? David Wright.
Oh, okay, David Wright.
Yeah. So okay. I mean, it's tough. I mean,
it's not the Hall of Very Good; it's the All of Fame. So
I mean,
really have to stand.
This isn't the NBA where everybody
goes,
in.
Right?
This is a very stingy Hall of Fame that doesn't even let some of the greats in for reasons. So
right.
Yeah, I don't see him being a Hall of Fame player.
I don't
even know that he gets probably 25% of the vote when his name is entered in the ballot. I think it's
Is everybody on the ballot when they're eligible? Like, is there a ballot with everybody eligible's name, or do you have to meet a certain threshold? Like, does the Hall of Fame committee decide who's on the ballot? How does that work?
I think they decide. They have like only so many names get put forward for a vote, and honestly, he might not even make that cut.
Right.
Well, I've seen some pretty some names that shouldn't actually be there up for a vote. So I think he'll make that cut. He'll get some. Yeah,
he deserves.
It'll be interesting.
He deserves that.
Obviously, one of the all-time great Nationals, and been even that World Series run. His first at bat there as well. What he brings to the team. Very exciting. Excited to continue bringing Matt on as our resident Nats expert. You'll get to see him again later down the road. Matt, thank you for coming out with us and allowing Stoner just a moment ago to call you Matty.
Matty-O.
It's fine. Like I said,
I won't do that to you.
People call me all kinds of things that I don't particularly appreciate. So why not Matty-O?
Well, now, hey. If you listen to, it's a different sport, okay, but it's still a sport in hockey. You got Backy, you got Ovi, you got Willie,
sure,
you got Kuzi.
Which line am I?
That's how it works.
Which
you're
line
on the
am
third line. You're on the shutdown, the grinder line.
On that, if you brought up hockey, it's Tom and not Tommy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but it's Willie. You always add an E or an IE.
I'm with Matt on this one. Yeah. We'll call him Matt. Now I do want to talk about. I want to call him out a little bit though. You'll see us in red.
Yeah.
And you're not wearing red, but that doesn't mean you're not supportive.
No, yeah, thanks. I was shamed before we started because I wasn't wearing any gear, and I'm typically not a gear guy, but I do have some. And a really good friend of mine 2 years ago sent me this, and I don't know how this is going to work, but here's the jersey that I'm wearing, this flannel, and a sporty W, a sporty block W right there on the shoulder.
Not even a curly W. That's how old that is.
Yeah, no. So this is an old replica Homestead Grace.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's
a nice jersey.
You know,
Right.
You'll love to see it.
and there's nobody's name on my back either. Like I'm not one of those, like it's cool that you're a fan of Scherzer and you want to wear his clothing, you know.
Would you put your own name on the back of that?
No,
No.
that'd be even worse.
Be like, hey, who's this guy? I've never heard of this guy.
And who put the Y at the end of Matt? You know.
Well, Matt, again, it's been a pleasure having you. We look forward to having you whenever there's some more big Nats news, and of course, we'll have you in hopefully for the All-Star break and trade deadline season. Definitely want to hear that expert mind that you have when it comes to the Nationals. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks so much, Nathan.
Matt.
See you, Stone.
All right, buddy.
All right, so Matt is checked out. We appreciate him coming on. We've talked some MLB. Let's talk about the rest of our DC fandom here. Big game yesterday for the Wizards. They won. They held a team to under 100 for probably the first time all season. But in that game, before the game, it was a question whether or not Beal was going to play. He had some soreness in the foot, and then he checks out in the third quarter.
Right. He took a fall just before halftime on a play where he got called for a charge and he fell on his hip, and he just wasn't right coming back out in the third quarter. But I made a declarative statement earlier this week that I said I'm out on the Wizards, 100% out. I'm done with them for the year. I can't take it. They blew a 17-point second half lead to the Knicks. The Knicks,
who actually have a good team. Have a good team this year.
They're better.
They almost blew a 30-point lead last night.
They had a 30-point lead in the third quarter, and it got whittled all the way down to 3 before they were able to pull it out. And of course, that was without Beal. Westbrook was a monster as usual.
Another triple-double. 15th ties the record for the Nationals. He's played 37 games. For the Wizards. Sorry, the Nationals are on the brain. For the Wizards. So he ties it. 37 games. He ties the franchise record of triple-doubles with 15.
Of all time. Not the season record.
Not the season record, all time. So he will break that record before the end of this season. We talked about whether or not there are 4 games out right now from a playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
The Chicago Bulls, who just traded away, 2 assets to the Wizards. You only got to see one play yesterday, but that one player happened to be pretty efficient early on. Kind of diminishing returns as the game went on. But he only played a handful of minutes. Do you think the Wizards got the better end of the deal? When they traded away some of your favorite players. You love saying Mo Wagner.
I love Mo Wagner.
They got rid of Mo, and they got rid of Troy Brown, who a lot of people wanted to see more of.
Yeah, but he's been here long enough for them to know that he's not a rotational player. He'll go somewhere. He'll spend probably 10 plus years in the league, but he's not anything special, which is understandable. He was like the 16th pick, whatever he was. Those guys don't always or very rarely pan out. So I had no problem Troy Brown Jr. going. Mo Wagner I like, but obviously Scotty Brooks doesn't like him. I don't know why. I don't like Scotty Brooks, so I'm going to quibble with every decision he makes. But yeah, they traded away a couple guys at the end of their bench. They got a couple of new guys also at the end of somebody else's bench. I don't think it's a difference maker, but at least they addressed an issue that they're having this year at the center position. But I don't know. I'm out. They disappoint me, of course, year in and year out, and this year is no different. However, the little bit window that they have is that their next 16 games, they play all teams that are either at 500 or below, except for 2 of those games. They play the Jazz and the Suns, who are very good teams. They play the Pistons a bunch. They play Chicago. They play Golden State. They just play a bunch of terrible teams. So if they're going to do anything this year, the next 16 games are going to decide. If they don't go at least 10-6, then it's over.
If they go 10-6, are you back in? What is it going to take for you to be back in? Because I don't believe that you're out. First off, you're going to still. One, you can't be. You have a job here to do. So,
Right.
but more importantly, that outside of your job as a fan, I don't think you're completely checked out. I think that you come back in. If they go 10-6, you're back in, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I say I'm out just because I'm frustrated after another terrible loss. But I'll always watch them as long as I have the time and the means. I'll watch every single game just like I did last night. So I'm always going to be in, but I may be checked out here as far as thinking that they have any chance to do anything the rest of this year. 10-6, that'll get them close to that 10 spot play-in game.
Like I said, there are four games behind. They're 4 games behind. They got a lot of ground to make up before.
They're playing some terrible teams.
They're a terrible team themselves. That's the problem, right? And,
I know,
this,
you're
what's
right.
frustrating is they have a former MVP who is still a very good basketball player in Westbrook. You have Beal, who is a very good basketball player, and just still not turning around. Usually, if you have 2 good players, you should be able to put, some wins, in the scorebooks, but it's just not happening. What I'm hoping for is the trade gave them some more defense, because that's what they've been missing is just atrocious defense. Correct. We'll see if that translates. Again, they held, again, a terrible team. That they played last night, but they held them to under 100 points. And I think if they can continue doing that, that's how they won the 8 out of 9 games earlier this season. Was they still allowed like 110 points a game during that stretch, but that was a significant bump to what they had been doing. One of the worst defensive teams in the league. So I don't know that they'll go 10-6. In the 16 game run, they have to if they're going to be competitive late in the season. I don't know necessarily that they're going to do that because I just don't think they're a very good team. I think the other thing that brings you back in is if they actually fire Scott Brooks.
They're not going to.
But they're not going to. They'll ride him out for the rest of the season, good or bad, and then they're just not going to sign him.
Right. He's definitely not coming back. We know that much. Unless they go on some ridiculous run into the playoffs, but that's not going to happen.
I think even if they did that, they'd just get rid of him. They consider it a fluke and get rid of him.
Well, in the last 16 games, if they went, not last 16 games, but this 16 game stretch, if they went 12-4 and all of a sudden found themselves in the 7th spot, and then they made it all the way to the end in the 7th spot, and then even won a round in the playoffs, you don't think he's coming back?
I think for him to come back in any capacity, they would have to make it to the championship, NBA championship. Right. And even then, pretty much only if he wins it does he get a reprieve. You might bring him back. You put him on like a year deal. Say, hey, can you repeat this level of success? And if not, then he's gone. I think good. even if they go 16-0 in these next 16 games, and then make a run in the playoffs as in like winning a series and being competitive in the second round, he's gone. If they make it to the conference championship and are competitive there and he loses, he's still gone. And some people might question it, and you'll probably hear a lot of the national pundits talk about like, why would they get rid of him because if you look at his body of work, it has not been good. Terrible. It's just not been good, and you take this as a fluke. You take this as you had at this point hopefully a healthy Westbrook, and then hopefully Beal gets healthy, and you just have these 2 people really carrying the team.
Good. Well, welcome to the Fire Scotty Brooks bandwagon. I appreciate you jumping on.
I was on it earlier. I said at the beginning, Scotty's got to go. Right. That's our hashtag here. Scotty's got to go. But realistically, like we said, we don't think he's going to get fired until the end of the season. Yeah. But like I said, I don't think that there's anything he can do to save his job at this point. Like I said, even winning the whole shebang, he's going to get like a 1-year contract to be like, okay, let's try this again. And then
he wouldn't sign that.
Though. No, he wouldn't, and I'd be okay with that. Like, thanks. Go sit on somebody else's bench and ruin their franchise. And I'm only like a like a sometimes a Wiz fan, because I'm a Thunder fan by trade, and he was there, and I liked him with the Thunder. But if you can't win with the talent that's Presti gave you in Oklahoma City, you're not going to win it here.
That's correct.
You're just not.
That's absolutely right.
So, well, we don't have to worry about the losing teams in DC, because there is another team that's doing a lot of winning lately, and somebody who really took it personal that people said he was off to a slow start on scoring. He's been on tear lately. You mentioned his name earlier, but we got Ovi, who is just absolutely on a scoring tear.
He is, and the Caps are doing kind of what we expect them to do. They're just beating the tar out of everybody. They're in first place. This has been the same thing for the last 10 years at least. You kind of take it for granted after a while, but they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're playing the dregs of the division, but they're doing what they're supposed to do and beating them. Ovi's on fire. Everything seems to be clicking. The only injury they have to worry about is perfect human. Lars Eller's been out for a little bit, but
knocking on wood.
You almost don't even have to talk about them, because they're just doing everything that you expect them to do. And then they play again today on national TV at noon, so make sure you're watching them today.
Excellent. Definitely have to tune in for that. Been exciting to watch them play. And I've really enjoyed OV's latest run. I know that I'm still having to. I know I'm not really allowed into.
Don't talk about it. Don't talk
just
about
yet. But I really, when we can go to a game, Stoner, I think that's it. I think that's the threshold that I need to cross.
Yeah.
To really get that fandom. So we'll do that. Hopefully, it probably won't be this season because of the restrictions still there in DC. But maybe next season you guys can welcome me in with open arms, and I just won't mention the other person.
Right. Well, have you been to an NHL game?
I have not. Nope, I have not been to an NHL
It will
game.
change your life, especially the Caps game. It will change your life, son.
I imagine it will. I imagine it's going to be exciting. That's how I became a Nats fan, actually, was in 2011. Didn't have a baseball team. I'm in the military. They gave out some free tickets for the military folks, and I went to the game in 2011 and was hooked. The Nats won that game. I was just like, all right, I got my team.
That's how it works.
They're just, obviously already a Washington football team fan. So I was just like, cool. Got 2 DC teams. I did go to, during that same time frame, I did go to a Wizards game, but I was already a Thunder fan, and I was a Thunder fan in the stadium while they were playing against the Wizards. And I think there was actually that season more Thunder fans in there than there were
Wiz fans.
Wiz fans, which also wasn't surprising because that was back when KD was still with the Thunder, and KD being in local,
area,
you had a lot of people who were cheering him on. So you won't ever take my Thunder fandom, but I do appreciate the Wiz and the heartbreak that they, as most of our DC sports teams, tend to bring to us. So, speaking of some heartbreak, there wasn't a lot of activity with Washington football team this week. Signed a few, lesser known names, just kind of like end of your roster type people. But there was some big movement, and I want to talk with you about what that movement means for the Washington football team. And so this week we saw the number 3 overall pick be traded away and given up a king's ransom for it. To go from 12 to 3, San Fran goes from 12 to 3.
Right.
You have Miami, who went from 3 to 12, and then trades with Philadelphia to get back into that 6 spot.
Right.
Now Philadelphia, so we have 10, 11, 12, all NFC East.
Right.
So how is this going to affect, do you think, not just how, but it's going to affect Washington, but do you think it affects what Washington does with their 19th pick?
I don't necessarily think it affects what they're going to do, but it's obviously scary, for lack of a better word, that you do have those teams all picking in front of you, all being able to choose weapons or obviously some guy that's going to be a pretty effective piece for that team. But looking back at San Fran moving all the way up to 3, history shows that's not a very effective move. That doesn't mean that it's going to blow up in their faces here, but Miami has done really well with their picks, and Philadelphia by moving back, acquiring more picks. A lot of these teams are doing work while Washington's just kind of sitting there at 19. And I think they're just probably, my opinion is they're probably just going to go offensive tackle, linebacker, not sexy players that get you excited, but necessary picks. So, I mean, what do you think? How do you think that those guys, 10, 11, and 12 picks are going to affect Washington's pick?
Well, one, I think my favorite thing out of this is that Philadelphia moved out of a spot where they can pick, where they could have taken Pitts.
Yeah, he's scary.
Who I do not think that Pitts makes it to 10. I think that Pitts is a very talented player, and I think somebody's going to take him in those first 9 picks. And now I'm happy that he will. If somebody does that, it won't be in this division.
Yeah,
you won't have to play him twice a year. Washington's had issues playing against tight ends. We make Ingram out of New York look like a Pro Bowler.
Right.
Insane that he actually got that nod, but for just an average tight end, he always seems to ball out against Washington. So if someone had a talent like, you've got Ertz even in Philadelphia, you had Witten before that, in with the Cowboys. So if any one of them were to get Pitts, that's trouble for Washington. So that part I'm happy about, right? I'm happy that Philadelphia is making bonehead decisions. Miami, as you mentioned, they just dropped from the 3rd to 6th and netted a 1st and a 3rd round.
That's pretty awesome.
That's great. That's great for them, and they're in good position because they're probably going to be, again, we've talked about this before. Yes, they gave up some draft capital, but you do that betting on yourself that they're going to be picked. Those picks are going to be 20 or higher. And so I'm not as opposed to it for San Fran, who is looking to, potentially. This is the weird part for me. We saw this with Washington in 2012, where they gave up a lot of draft capital to get the second best QB. But there were there were 2 QBs that year, and Luck and Griffin, who looked like legit talents that you just needed to have. And Griffin, was Rookie of the Year. He had an outstanding, 2012. Obviously didn't pan out long term, but injuries played a part in that. So you can't completely put that on the Washington front office as far as that's concerned. I don't know that this year there are 3 quality QBs, because you don't move up to the 3rd spot looking to get. To take Pitts, to take an offensive tackle, you're going to go up there for a QB.
Correct.
Everyone's assuming at this point, right, that it's going to go Lawrence and then Wilson,
and then Fields.
And then Fields, is that who they're going with? You have Sims, who's out there, and several other people, with blue check marks on Twitter, who are agreeing that Mac Jones is actually who they're moving up for because he's the most NFL ready. And you don't move up to that far for someone who's not NFL ready. I personally would love to see someone take Mac Jones off the table that early, because then he's not available to Washington at 19 for them to be like, hey, this is the most NFL ready QB. So it'll be interesting to see who did they move up for that's in that capacity. Maybe the Jets do surprise everybody and go with go with that offensive tackle and leave Wilson or Lawrence if Jacksonville surprises us with that 3rd pick.
I don't think there's any way that they're going to do that, and you have to assume that San Francisco did their homework and they know that the Jets are going to take Wilson at 2. Otherwise, they wouldn't have moved up to 3. They might have moved up or tried to move up to 4 or 5 or whatever.
Word is they didn't even try to go for the 2nd.
Right, because they know, right?
Yeah, there wasn't even an offer sheet, nothing for the 2nd. They just San Fran went in for the 3rd.
Right.
So that's interesting to see. We think they're going to take a QB. We know that Washington seems to like, Lance Trey Lance is somebody who's been mentioned in that third spot as well. I don't know that they take, somebody that raw. Obviously a lot of talent, but not really a person you want to move up that you lose that many picks for that is just raw. So I'm thinking with you, I'm thinking it's going to be Fields. Love for it to be Jones. But we'll have to see. Again, my favorite thing out of this whole situation is the fact that none of our division rivals are picking within the picks
zone.
1 through 9. They're not picking in that pit zone.
Although if you look at the top 9, if the teams that or you assume are going to take quarterbacks, all the rest of the teams that are assumed to not take quarterbacks, they all have an established tight end already, someone on the cusp of being a Pro Bowl or whatever. So there is the possibility that he falls to 10. I don't have the list in front of me, but you've got teams like Denver and I believe the Chargers. They all have good tight ends. So maybe he lasts until then, until 10, 11. I just hope not. I just hope somebody says, yeah, we've got a good one, but let's get this guy who's a can't misser.
Let's get this guy who absolutely just dominates every which way. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to the draft. As we get closer, Ref the District, we have some exciting things that we're working on for that and want to pull in some of you, our listeners. We appreciate you live listening. We know we had some issues on today. We appreciate you coming in with us a little bit later. We are kind of getting closer to the end here, and I do have some obligations, so I do have to call us to an end. We do stream live every Sunday here on our YouTube. You can always catch us on Twitter at Ref the District. You'll see the Stoner and I interact there. We appreciate Matt coming on, being our Nats expert. We'll have him on more as the season goes on, whenever we have some big news to share there as well. Stoner, I always appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining me.
Yep, I appreciate you. Good show today. Don't worry about the technical difficulties. Make sure you get in early so that you can claim that you discovered us first. So get in now, get in early until we blow up and become famous, and you can say, hey, I knew them back when.
Like and subscribe. I know 60% of you who watch this haven't clicked that bell, so go ahead and click that bell. We appreciate you for all that you do. This is Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. He's the Stoner.